Hello and welcome to the Miranda website walkthrough. This is specific to the CineMiranda, so we won't be covering a lot of the architectural lighting features that exist in the normal Miranda website. This is entirely about CineMiranda, which is more for live production kind of things where it's happening or streaming SACN over the internet, things like that. So this is the management website, which is slightly different than the programmer. You use the programmer to create show files, use the management website to manage Mirandas that have already been provisioned. So miranda.benpeoples.com is the website. You can see it here. You go there, you get this lovely login. All logins are passwordless. So we type in our email address and remember me, and we click remember me remembers your login for 30 days, and we click send sign in link. And at this point, it has sent us a sign in link, and we're done with this. In a few seconds, we get the Miranda login here. I just got one, so it's grouping them together. And then we click login to Miranda, and it pops us back over here. If you ever end up on that login page from navigating to a bookmark or something, it will redirect you to the correct page that you were trying to go to after you log in, which is super handy. So when you first log into the website, in the top left corner, you'll see a sauropod. That means that you are on the architectural lighting interface. So what you want to do is you want to go over to this interfaces page and click on television cinema, which redirects you to this website. So this one you can bookmark and use as your login page, and if you're not logged in, it will redirect you and all of that. But if you forget, look for the pterosaur in the corner. If you don't have a pterosaur, you are on the architectural lighting page, and lots of things will be missing that you're used to seeing. So in this case, we're going to, so all of these tiles are different systems. Each individual user can have access to different systems depending on whether or not you've been given rights to them. A lot of these are in test systems that are set up on my system, but you can see all of these different cards. And in this case, gives you total number of controllers online per system. We're going to use the CineMiranda demo system, which is the one we set up to do the demo video that you probably got to this video from. So we have an overview. We know what the name is. We know where it is roughly in the world. It has two controllers. One is Ken's Miranda. One is Mike's Miranda. In this case, we're going to click on the Ken Miranda. One thing before we go any further, the reason these are gray is because these controllers have been offline for a while. When they're online, and we'll see that in a sec, they are green. If they've been offline for a little bit, they're yellow, and then when they've been offline for a while, they're red. After several days, they turn gray because we assume if they've been offline for several days, it's not an issue, you know about it. So we look at Ken's Miranda. So this is the overview page for the controllers. This is kind of where you do most of the things for a given controller. We can see information about the data. The last reboot was 135 minutes before the last time we got the data 10 days ago. We have its name, we have its MAC address, we have some dates about when it was. We have show file status. The last show file we sent was Ken Miranda, which we uploaded on this date. And that the patch was updated completely and the stack was updated completely. So that is all good news. We also have the controller log here, which we can get into in a different way if you want, but for the moment, this is the controller log. So you can see the last thing we were doing is we were hitting the go on QStack buttons, and then before that we were hitting some snapshots. So that's a good way. The controller log always comes from the controller, so it's a good way to know that you're getting actual real data back from the controller. Over in the controller controls, we have Fixture Control, Queue Control, Snapshots, Sacn Bridge, Show File Update, and Advanced Features. We will go through each of these in turn. So the first thing is Fixture Control. Fixture Control is very basic at the moment. We have for each fixture that has an attribute, so each row is a fixture, each column is an attribute. We have intensity, red, green, blue, shutter, CTC, wheel zero, fan, preset, delta UV, and crossfade. All of these parameters, whether they are so on the fixture or not, are 16-bit values. That's one of the updates that we're bringing, is the ability to more easily map between 8-bit values and 16-bit values, bring you a color picker, bring you some sliders, make this a little bit more user-friendly. If we want to update this controller is offline, so it obviously won't update. We can type in values directly, and that will let us directly set what's happening simply by doing this. As soon as you so when you type in a value, so we can type in 32767, which is 50%. If you hit enter on the value, it will immediately update. And then if the controller is online, you will get this value below updated, which is the feedback from the controller. If that is not updating for some reason, you can either try sending the value again, or you can press the update button, which will request the update for this one. When you load this page, it actually requests an update. So usually when you open this page, if you've been doing some stuff, you will watch all of the attribute values update as the request has come back. If you need to refresh them for some reason, someone else is controlling stuff, you're not sure what's happening, you can press the update all button and it will do that. Whenever you send an update, or whenever you send a change, it does request an update back from the controller. So you will always kind of see those numbers changing as you've sent things. But if you ever feel like you're out of sync, you can press the update button or the update all button, which updates all fixtures. So that's that stuff. We go to the queue control. Queues are stored on the controller. They are pre-programmed onto the controller through the show file method. So we have a standalone programmer with which you patch fixtures and set up queues. Queues can have multiple steps. That's a whole other video. You can see that video in the description of this one or in the description of the main CineMiranda video. Queues, to upload a show file requires rebooting the controller after you've uploaded the show file, but you can have a lot more flexibility in what you do in the queues and queue timing and all of that through that process. In this case, you have a very simple thing that says queue 1, 2, 3. This column indicates whether or not it loops. So the second one is a loop. Queues can either be one-shots or loops. If they're one-shots, they go through the queue stack once and then end, leaving whatever the last value is open. If they're a loop, they just loop forever. You can't do timed loops, or like you can't say loop 6 times unless you actually copy and paste those queue steps in. Clear output will turn off it will turn off intensity, red, green, blue, and white channels. Any other attributes will not be affected by clear output. And clear output will also stop any running queues. So if we hit clear output, that would send the command to the controller if the controller was offline. The go buttons immediately send goes for each of the queues. The CineMiranda does actually have multiple parallel faders. These buttons are currently set up so that they only run things on fader 1. So if I hit this button and then I hit this button, it will stop the white CTC swap in the middle and switch to an RGB roll. So there are ways to set it up, primarily using triggers when we're in architectural mode, that you can have multiple queues running in parallel. But in this case, for this simple interface, everything loads on queue stack 1. Or fader 1 rather. Snapshots are a really powerful feature that let you take whatever the current system is and record it. They also have the feature that they don't work when the controller is offline, but in this case, we can kind of walk through what would happen if we were online. One, we can adjust the fade time. So the fade time defaults to 1 second, but we can change it to 2 seconds, or we can change it to 5 seconds, or whatever. So 2 seconds, and then we hit go, it would do a 2-second fade into that. We know currently that snapshot 1 is set as the startup. What that will do is when the controller boots up, as soon as it's gotten all the files loaded and before it's even figured out how to get to the internet, it immediately fades into that. Whatever the fade time is when you press the set as startup button is the fade time that is recorded into that startup look. That doesn't mean that you always have to load that snapshot on that fade time, but it means that, in that one startup look, it always does it at that speed. You can delete snapshots, you can record snapshots. Let's go through. So pretend we had set some values or someone had set some values some other way. We want to record snapshot 7. So we say record and we say this is I don't know, we don't have a blue look. So this is our blue look. That's now recorded if the controller was online. We'd be able to verify that it was recorded by going back to this page and would see in the controller log that there was a log that said save snapshot 7. Since there's not, We did it that way. And then if we want to delete this snapshot, it says, do you really want to delete this? There's no undo. We cancel out of that. It doesn't do it. If we say record OK, it does that, and it goes back to not recorded, which now matches the state of the actual controller, which is why I'm leaving it in that state. Clear output in this case also does the same thing. It stops all current queues that are running and turns off intensity, red, green, blue, and white. Missed the back button. Sacn Bridge. Sacn Bridge is one of the more powerful features of the controls. We're actually going to go back to the system because actually Mike's Miranda is the one. So what you want to see is when a controller boots up, you want to see it say booted as Sacn input node. That means that it has in fact booted as the Sacn input node when we have sent the command to it. When you send the command that says turn into an Sacn input node, it will cause the controller to reboot because it's a completely separate firmware mode. So if we click on Sacn Bridge, in this case we have enable Sacn mode, disable Sacn node, and set the universe. So right now we only support one input universe. So in this case, it's saved as universe 1. If I change this number to something else and click save universe ID, it will transmit to the controller if the controller is online and save it as the new input universe. And then you can confirm that happened by looking at the controller log. Enable Sacn node does the same thing. Disable Sacn node does the same thing. The key to understanding this is that you want the device that is set up as the Sacn input node is the one that is actually taking the Sacn data. So the Mike's Miranda in this case was sitting on his desk next to the ETC Ion XE and taking Sacn data there. So that was the one that was in Sacn input mode. The one that was the output was Ken's, which we were also running either through direct fixture control or loading queue stacks or loading snapshots. So the input unit is the one that is local to the Sacn, and then the output unit or units are the ones that are getting that data. Router controls over here lets you broadly control in what way data is routing. So the way this is currently set up with this one not checked and this one checked means that Mike's CineMiranda, when it sends Sacn data, is not routed anywhere. So if there are multiple controllers here, this checkbox disables this as an input entirely. This checkbox lets us control individual outputs, and we'll switch over to a multi-output system, and you can see how that works. So in this case, if we do this, then the router is told to allow routing of Sacn packets from Mike's CineMiranda to Ken's CineMiranda. The exact same thing is blocked if I do this, but it blocks it on Ken's end, so it takes in the packets from Mike's, but does not transmit any to Ken's. So if we want to actually pass data, we set it up this way, and it correctly passes. These controls work whether or not controllers are online or not, because these are all controlling the router, which lives in the cloud. So if we go back to the system, we can see the two controllers. We do that. Okay. So show file update. If you've updated the show file in the programmer and you want to upload a new one, you click here. You choose the file from wherever you want to choose the file from, and then you can upload from here. You upload the new file. It takes it into the cloud. It processes it into a file, and then you will see this update. So these will all update. The show file status will change depending on where it is in the process. The show file name is the file that you picked. The date is the date at which you picked that file and told it to upload. And then patch status will go from 0% to 100% as it updates, and then it will update the stack, and that will go from 0% to 100%. You will also see that update in the controller log. We can actually see those updates over on Mike's because we updated a show file a few times. So you'll see show file update start, show file update finish, show file update start, show file update finish. The reason there's two of them is because actually the patch and the stack are currently uploaded as completely separate files. And so even though it's one show file that you're dealing with from a programmer end, there are two steps to that. And so you'll see update, 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 update. But if you see all of those, and then you'll see all good rebooting, which says everything was loaded correctly, everything is fine, and it will boot just fine. So that's that process. If we want to go look at a system, BPI test rig, has several controllers in it. So if we go into this unit, and we can see in Sacn Bridge, you see how this is set up. So local unit is currently unchecked, but these three are checked, which says that local unit cannot send any SACN data, but these three can accept it. So it'll be blocked at the local unit. If we checked this, it would allow SACN data to go from local unit to all three of these outputs. If for some reason V1 did not want any of that data, we can uncheck V1 and only these two would actually take the data. And that lets you control how the SACN data goes. The idea is a lot of this is that you're taking SACN data in from one location, sending it to multiple output controllers, and then saving snapshots. So in effect, you might only be needing to mess with, the controller at my desk. And so we say, okay, so we route from local unit to Ben's desk, and the other two we're just going to run on snapshots and not have to worry about and deal with as a separate process. So that's basically it. Yeah, that is basically it. Under advanced features, we have two more things. So Reboot Controller, this sends the reboot command to the controller, which will cause it to reboot. This will almost always turn off lights because there is a brief period where you're getting DMX data, but it's not connected to the internet, or will reload that first snapshot. In theory, if you have a fade time of 0 on the snapshot should fire within the first packet or two of DMX. It's possible, because those are asynchronous processes on the controller, that you won't quite get the data in there, but that's, be warned, rebooting the controller will turn off the lights. There's a reformat data partition here. There is a rare case where you can get the controller in a really, really bad state. And this lets us kind of recover it from that state. In general, you will only need to push that button if one of us tells you need to push that button, because it will put the controller in kind of a safe mode that takes a little bit of getting out of, but it lets us recover a controller without actually having to ever physically get to the controller. Then we switch back to normal features, and we get all the normal features. So that's it for the summary of the website. You can log out if you are done. Your login will be persistent for a while. 30 days if you check the box. It is persistent for, I believe, an hour or two otherwise. So I generally recommend checking the box to retain your login, unless you're just logging in really quickly on someone else's computer to check something. But in general, always hit the logout button when you're done, and then we can loop back around to the login again. Thanks so much.